All right, everybody, welcome to Inside the Igloo. Joining us today is a man who has spent more time in the NHL press boxes than Ryan Graves has, which is saying something. He's the Pittsburgh Penguins whisperer, the man behind the breaking news, the only guy who can get a quote from Kyle Dubas mid-free agency in another country. Please welcome the legend, the Pittsburgh whisperer, and Josh Yohe.
What an introduction, Ken. I appreciate that.
Oh, absolutely. I was going to throw something else in there, but I was like, no, never mind.
It's deserved, that's for sure.
Thank you so much for joining us today. And
Happy to
again,
be
my
here.
name is Ken. We have Danny and Scott here as well. But again, thank you so much, Josh, for joining us today. I know you've been busy. You're traveling the world right now. You're in Toronto. So thanks for taking some time out.
My pleasure.
All right, so I guess the first topic we could start up on is the Pittsburgh Penguins schedule. It just dropped, the biggest news in the past couple of weeks. What do you think is the hardest aspect of the schedule? I was thinking maybe, the 16 back-to-backs. I mean, do you see something else that could be more difficult?
Well, I don't know. Every schedule has its little nuances. I mean, and you never know, like, you might say, "Whoa, that Colorado game is going to be really tough," but for all you know, McCarr and McKinnon will be hurt in March, and it won't be. You know what I mean? So it's hard to play that game with the schedule. But just looking at it, they have a road trip in March that starts and ends in Carolina, where they haven't won in 8 years. I think really weird road trip. I don't remember one that started and ended in the same city. And in between two trips to Raleigh, you have at Vegas and at Colorado and at Utah. That's a nightmare of a trip, and that's in March when teams are usually starting to ramp things up for the playoffs. So just on the surface, I saw that and it got my attention. I know they have a lot of back-to-backs, but last year for all of their problems, they were actually really good in the second game of back-to-backs, which made absolutely no sense, given that historically old teams really don't enjoy those kinds of games. But the schedule's the schedule. I just think the biggest thing for the Penguins, we all know how low expectations are going to be entering next season. If they want to be better than people think, if they want Kyle Dubas to give them any kind of a chance to be better than maybe people think they can be, they better get off to a good start. So that means the first three games against the New York teams and then the California trip the week after. I would advise they get off to a good start, because if they start out 3-7 or something, you know what the talk's going to be around the league about them, and you know that can probably just psychologically create some real problems for the whole season. So that first month is probably more important than it normally would be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, good point about the first month, and I think we all know by now who they're opening up against, the New York Rangers and Mike Sullivan's new team. In your perspective, who's that game going to be the hardest on? Is it going to be, Dan Muse or Mike Sullivan or the players?
Oh, it's a really good question. I actually think from Sullivan's standpoint, when they come to Pittsburgh 4 days later, I would guess that would be the more emotional one for him. The Dan Muse thing too. I mean, he was in New York the last couple of years, so I'm sure that's a little awkward for him being on the other bench for his first game as Penguins coach. That's a good question. I think it'll be hard on Sullivan and Crosby and Malkin and Letang and Rust. I mean, those guys have such of a bond, and they have for so long, and it's going to be on the bright lights of ESPN on opening night. The whole, so many hockey. I don't want to say the whole country is going to be watching, because I've seen their ratings on ESPN. That wouldn't be accurate, but all the hockey fans are going to be watching. That'll be tough, but I think probably for all of them, that first Saturday night home game, which is Penguins Rangers on October 11th, I believe, that's the one that I think really could be tough. And I have to go on a slight tangent while we're talking schedule, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I don't know if anybody's talked about this or not, but we all know there's a good chance this is Malkin's last season, and I think there's a real chance it's Ovechkin's last season too. And the league, they almost nailed it. They have Penguins Capitals playing twice at the very end of the season, but then they have the Penguins finishing one more game in St. Louis and the Capitals finishing one more game in Columbus. Would it be that hard just to have the Penguins and Capitals play the last game of the season, for God's sake? Is it that hard?
Yeah.
And I know what they would say. Well, they're on national TV on Saturday and Sunday, and that Tuesday. That's why they did it. But that's also during the last 2 rounds of the Masters. Like both at 3 o'clock Saturday, 3 o'clock Sunday. It's completely stupid. Nobody's going to be watching anyway. Like, just have them play the last game of the season in Washington. That's fine. It's Ovechkin. I get it. When I saw the schedule, I saw Pittsburgh, Washington, the last 2 games. I'm kind of scanning. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Last game of the year in DC. Then, at St. Louis.
At St. Louis.
What a place.
I was disappointed that there, that they didn't even give us like a Stadium Series game or something like a big like atmosphere to play against each other for the last time. I'm surprised that wasn't placed.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Winter Classic. It started with Pittsburgh and Buffalo in 2008, but I think it really became a bigger deal and came of age when the Penguins and Capitals played in a place we used to call Heinz Field. That was, of course, the famous game when Sid got hurt with the David Steckel flying shoulder, which, of course, he didn't mean to do. But I agree with you. And, I mean, nobody knows what Ovechkin is planning. We know Sid's not going to retire after this season. Ovechkin might, though, and you would think that they would want to capitalize on Crosby and Ovechkin and put them in the spotlight at least.
Even Malkin, even the 2 Russians together, because it could be both their last. It
would be nice, but at least like if it is their last 2 games, and I know I can hear all the Capitals fans like, we're going to make the playoffs, and the Penguins. All right, just ignore that for a second. You can't schedule that. You never know. It would be appropriate for them to play each other, even if it's a regular season, for the final time. And the Saturday in Pittsburgh, Sunday in Washington's perfect. I don't know why they couldn't have scheduled it a little differently. Personally,
well,
that's what I've done.
I don't follow up with you, Josh. I feel like the biggest stage the Penguins have this season is overseas. They're going to be, obviously, we know we're going to be in Sweden in November. With obviously some looming questions on how many Swedes will be on this team come time they enter Sweden. But do you feel maybe like they could have done something bigger for the Penguins when it comes to, like, instead of Sweden, they could have done maybe like a Winter Classic Stadium Series, like you were just telling us about and talking about? Like, do you think it could have been marketed a bit better now that there's possibilities we might not even see enough Swedes to kind of like make it marketing wise good for the NHL?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's nice that they're playing there. They seem legitimately excited about it. And I think, even if Raquel and Carlson are off the roster by November 14th or whenever it is, like, I think having Sidney Crosby play games there, that's a big enough of a deal. It is. I mean, he's still a bigger deal than Erik Karlsson and Rickard Raquel, even if it's in Sweden. That said, I'm sure the Swedish officials who are involved would certainly prefer that at least one of them, especially Carlson, still be on the Penguins roster. But you mentioned Dubas. I was over there for the World Championships back in May, and I was blown away by the amount of Swedes who were walking around wearing Sidney Crosby jerseys. Like, we can't imagine what it's like, because I've never been to Sweden before. I didn't really know what to expect. I met so many people who are Penguins fans in Sweden. I was blown away by it. So I think him being there is still a big deal. And as for the Winter Classic and all the other stuff, like, I get it. The league doesn't revolve around the Penguins, and they're not very good right now. But I can't get over them not making the last game of the season, Ovechkin against Crosby and Malkin. That like, it's not that hard. But then again, I'm old enough to remember Sidney Crosby's first game ever, which happened to be on Mario Lemieux's 40th birthday, and they were playing together. First time, Crosby's first game. You'd think they'd maybe, I don't know, make it a home game or make it against, Toronto or Montreal or New York. Nah, at New Jersey. Like, at New Jersey. Like, well, nobody ever wanted to watch the Devils back then. And they make it at New Jersey. The league isn't real good when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I do want to add to what Scott said, though, and this is kind of directed towards Scott. I also think even if you took Carlson and Raquel out of the situation, you still have Philip Forsberg. And I think Nashville has a couple Swedes on their team as well. So, you still have the nationality there.
The Forsberg thing helps for sure. And you know what? They might. Who knows what's going to happen this summer? I mean, I think there's a real chance those guys could be dealt before then. But it's also, not set in stone by any stretch. But it'll be. By the way, if any Penguins fans are going over there, I'll be there in November. It's like I'm an old veteran of Sweden now. I was there in May. Stockholm's an awesome city. You have to go to the ABBA Museum. Trust me, it's a good time. So I strongly recommend that trip. It was really fun.
Awesome.
Now, jumping into some of the other news this week, the Pittsburgh Penguins made a trade for Artur Shilov. I know you've been talking about this quite a bit this week, Josh. But can you give us some insight into what you're hearing, if anything, or your thoughts into the pipeline at goaltender right now? What does that look like, and what does that mean for Jari or anything?
Sure.
Blomqvist too, I think, is a big name for that.
Yeah, for sure. Shilov's gonna make the team. I think I'd be shocked if he didn't out of camp. I mean, unless he has a bad training camp. I mean, I don't think they got him just to send him to Wilkes-Barre. So what does it mean? Well, if he outplays Jari in training camp, like I think he has a chance to be the de facto number one guy for a while. Like it wouldn't shock me. I don't think Jari has done enough in the last couple of years to be told, yeah, you're the number one guy when he shows up at training camp, even though he did play pretty well in the last month. So I think there could be a real battle. A lot of people have asked, well, what does this mean for Blomqvist, or what does this mean for Miroshov? Does that mean they're down on them? No, I don't think it does. I think you gave up pretty much nothing to get a legitimately talented young goalie, so why wouldn't you do it? They really like Miroshov, and I think just athletically speaking, he has the highest upside of any of their goaltenders. He's also the youngest, probably has the highest ceiling, and they know that, but they don't want to rush him. And just because he has those attributes doesn't mean it's a sure thing that he becomes some star goalie. We have a habit of overrating prospects when they come to Pittsburgh because we haven't seen many prospects in the last decade. So whenever one shows up, right, like, oh, I saw Derek Pulley out in practice. He's going to be a star. Like, nah, he actually wasn't. Like, oh, Bennett, that goes, there's always, now, I always have to tell people, like, I like McGroarty and Koivunen a lot. They're going to be good NHL players. I don't know if they're going to be stars. Like, we have to temper the expectations a little bit. And I'll say that about Miroshov. I think he has a real chance to be a legit number one goalie. But they don't want to rush him. They don't want him playing behind this defense this season. Yeah. Blomqvist is interesting. I'm just not sold on him. Like, I don't know that he's as good as some. He came up and had those great first few games against like Detroit and Toronto. I was like, whoa, it was pretty impressive. He didn't look very good his last few NHL appearances at all. Doesn't mean he sucks. Doesn't mean he's not going to be an NHL goalie. But if you're Kyle and you watch, how he performed in those NHL games, and you have a chance to get a talented guy like this, why wouldn't you? I mean, the more talented goalies you can add to your system, the better. And when you don't have to give up, a fourth-round pick and a bust of a prospect, like that's kind of what we're talking about. Yeah, I think any GM would have made that trade, and I think a lot of teams wanted him.
Yeah.
And I think Jim Rutherford likes Kyle Dubas a lot, and they like doing business together. And I also think Jim is very well aware of the goaltender situation at Pittsburgh and wanted to give this kid a chance to maybe go be a starter. I talked with Jim over the weekend about this kid, and he basically said, yeah, he's trending toward becoming a really good NHL goalie. We asked him to work on some stuff after last season, and he did, and he's gotten better. And they just have so many goalies, they couldn't keep him. They were going to lose him on waivers probably, so they wanted to get something in return. So I think it was a really smart trade.
That's a really good insight. So it almost aligns Shilov to come into a place where he can compete immediately for a starting job. Mm-hmm. That's really good to hear. And now, of course, every fan wants to hear about Jari being sent out, right? We talked about this last week on the podcast, and every fan will say goaltending will fix the Penguins. That's going to be the immediate fix. Now, the four of us know that's not always the case. Did Jari play well, at the beginning of the year? No. Did he show improvement when he came back up from Wilkes-Barre? Yeah, he definitely did. But with his contract, and as that contract gets smaller in terms of years, it may become more movable. More teams may want to jump all over that. But have you heard anything in terms of Jari being moved or him in trade talks or anything like that?
I haven't. My impression has long been, if there's a team willing to take him, the Penguins would be very happy. They may drive him to the airport even and bid him adieu. I mean, I think the Penguins. I've never heard a bad word about him. Like he works hard, and he really did. What he did in the last month of the season, like I give him credit. That was a terrible defensive team he was playing behind. His confidence had to have been shot, and he comes back and he plays really well in that last month. And I know a lot of people said, "Well, those games didn't matter." That's why. Like, well, they did matter to him. Like his career was on the line there.
Yeah.
If he lays an egg again after another Wilkes-Barre recall, he might be done. Right. So to his credit, he resurrected himself a little bit. But he's not their long-term answer. We all know that. So yeah, if anybody is interested in him, I'm sure something could be arranged. And you're right. I mean, that was a 5-year contract. Well, 2 of those years are out of the way now, and now the cap has gone up. And teams are so desperate for goaltending. Like if he can put together a decent season, a decent couple of months, who knows? It's conceivable that somebody would take a shot at him. Like I think Ryan Graves, who we've already poked fun at once in this interview, that's an utterly unmovable contract. I don't ever see that contract being moved. This one, however, he can always play better, and if he doesn't make that much money, the teams wouldn't consider taking a shot on him. But I haven't heard anything being imminent this summer about him.
Yeah. I was wondering about Edmonton. I know they were interested in Slivos. I know that was a thing. So I mean, now that they missed out on him, and I think now that they said we're not signing Carter Hart. I mean, does Jari? Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I heard the Carter Hart stuff. Like, it's a little soon.
Yeah. I haven't even had a verdict, so I was surprised at that.
I heard that. I know.
I heard someone said that they're no interest at all.
I don't know. I mean, well, first of all, I'm sure they were interested in dealing with Vancouver, but why would Vancouver help the best team in the West? Like, I'm sure everybody is aware of Edmonton's goaltending issues, and none of those teams in the West are going to help them. That's another reason why I think he came to Pittsburgh. In Edmonton and Jari, they have always been a natural partner. I mean, he lives there for part of the offseason. He trains there. He won a Memorial Cup with the Oil Kings. He's worked out with McDavid a lot in the summer. So it makes perfect sense that they would be interested in him. And I don't think their goaltending is like pathetic, but they don't have a number one guy. They don't have an answer. So you would think they would be a little bit desperate for goaltending. They have cleared some salary space this summer. So they're always the team that you think of first when you think of Tristan Jarry.
And to your just to take a step back to your comments about how he never expected to be, to be in that situation where he was sent down. And I do recall, and we talked about this last week as well, was the first kind of interview or media scrum with Jarry right after he came his first game back up, when he made the comment that he never thought he would be in that situation, and how all the teammates reached out to him and how he was really humbled by the situation. And I do hope that it was an eye opener, like you said, and that's why he came in to play, or that's why he came into the end of the season and competed the way he did. And so I hope I hope the best for him. I hope he turns it around this year. He's he's kind of what everyone blames whenever things go bad, and people don't focus enough on the defensive game we had last year, and the blue line was just bad in front of him. And I hope he turns it around, and if he is moved, at least is moved with a positive perception in the city of Pittsburgh, because he is a really good guy.
Well, I give him credit for what he did in that last month. Like I said, that had to be difficult. And I have a really difficult time gauging him and gauging the goaltenders on this team in general, because you're right. They were probably the worst defensive team in the league last season. Like the amount of grade A opportunities they allowed on a regular basis. Like I know, and myself included, we always made a big deal about the first shot, first goal against Pay. I forget, it was like 13 or 14 times, whatever it was. If you go back and watch, I would say maybe 2 of them were bad goals on the goalie. Like they were all like breakaways or 2-on-1s or tap in goals. It was unbelievable how, I don't know if unprepared is the right word, but whatever it was, the Penguins, like early in games last year, it was pathetic. They were just, they gave up 2-on-1s. And I'm not going to go back and watch because it'll make me sick, but they gave up a 2-on-1 on the first shift of the game last year. It had to have been 15 times. Had to have been.
Yeah.
Like that's sick. That's not normal. And I don't really blame Mike Sullivan for that. It's that, I don't think anybody thinks Mike Sullivan's a bad coach. I don't know who to blame for it. But I think the guys wearing 65 and 58 had a lot to do with it. I'm not going to blame them for everything. It's a terrible blue line. Like if you look at the Penguins right now, at least they have some talent at the goaltender position. It might be an unknown, but there is talent there. And if you look at their forwards right now, as currently constructed, and we know there's a good chance someone's going to get traded, but
Sure.
let's say for fun, just say they don't trade anyone until the start of the season. Like that's a pretty decent forward group. There's real talent there. Then you look at the blue line, and it's just a complete disaster. I mean, I know they brought in a couple of guys, but at best they have a bunch of number 5 and 6 defensemen. Like they don't have a top 4, and Carlson and Letang have been so bad that they'll play those minutes or whatever, but I don't know if that's a good thing at this point. So the blue line is just.
Do you think with Dan Muse we're going to see less pinching and or more like the forwards are going to get back for the D-man that's up? Like, what do you think? Is there a certain game plan that he runs that might be different from Sullivan?
It's a good question, but it's impossible to say just yet.
Yeah.
Really, until we see training and kind of get a feel for the system and how he wants to play. I would assume we would see less pinching. It would be painful if we saw more. But it's tough because like every team pinches. Like it's not like the Penguins were playing some hyperactive system compared to everyone else. They were just no good at it. Like, I mean
you got guys like Carlson who are relying on their speed that they don't have anymore. Like these offensive forwards that just aren't the same players they used to be.
Right. No, I mean the Penguins. Really in the last few years, they've had a lot of forwards who just weren't very good defensively or who weren't very interested in doing it. And Letang has clearly lost a step, and he still pinches constantly. And I don't know if Carlson's lost a step or not, but he just, he just makes baffling mistakes every game that just make you shake your head. And the rest of the blue line is just not very good. I mean, it's just not. So I do think if they play tighter to the vest, that would probably help them. But it's tough because, nobody wants to hear this, but the fact is the Penguins' best players, like, they don't want to play that way. Like, you think Crosby and Malkin want to play 2-1 hockey? Like, no, I'm not saying they don't want to win. Of course they do. But trust me, great offensive players don't want to play that way. Neither do Carlson or Letang. Like, so it's always tough when your best players are just conditioned to play a certain brand of hockey. Like all in their late 30s, I don't know if they're suddenly going to change and okay, let's play the trap. No, that's it doesn't work. People, and I don't think Dan Muse is going to make much of an impression if he comes in. All right, guys, we're going to play the trap. Not worried about your point totals. They're human. It's a tough thing to do. So, and let's be honest, is the goal even to win this year? I understand you can't tell Dan Muse that, or even Kyle Dubas, but we all know. There's a chance this team isn't very good, and we all know that Tristan Jarry's heroics down the stretch probably cost the Penguins about 5 draft slots. Yeah. So, I don't know. It's an interesting time for the Penguins right now.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to actually, kind of go on a topic that's kind of within the interesting time, Josh. Obviously, you released an article, and there's been a looming question the past couple of months on ownership, and it's a big topic. Obviously, you released an article this past couple of days, just on an update on what everybody's been looking for, with Mario Lemieux and co. Pitching, the possibility of returning to ownership. Is there anything on an update on that? And if so, could we see it? And if so, when? If that is a possibility, like, is there a timeline, or do you think there's a, for Penguins fans, do you think there's a time where he, like, if he buys the team, could he step in right away and kind of, send a message to Kyle Dubas? Because we all know Mario loves to win. When he was in ownership, he loved to win. And, there's a point where I feel like, I don't know if he would almost consider the Penguins losing. I feel like he'd almost want to kind of tell Kyle Dubas, like, we need to win with Sidney Crosby on the team. Do we see that at all, like, down the pipeline?
I mean, there's a lot of good questions. I can tell you this about the ownership situation. Like when Pierre LeBrun, who I work with at the Athletic, he broke this news. It was during the Stanley Cup final, and I know Pierre's not the type to make up things, so I knew there was validity to it. But at the same time, I thought to myself, like, this doesn't really make sense. Like everything I hear about Mario, like he's happy playing golf in Florida and he's playing with the grandkids. And the thing about Mario, like a lot of people don't necessarily understand. I don't think Mario ever like loved hockey the way Sidney Crosby does. He was just better at it than anyone else. So what else are you going to do when you're like the most talented player who ever lived and you're from Montreal? Yeah, you're going to go play in the NHL. Like, but I don't know if Mario like craves being around the rink every day the way Sid does. I don't think he ever has. So, but when he got out a few years ago and they sold the team, everybody I know who's close to Mario said, like, you're never really going to see him again. He's going to go golfing and never come back. I mean, that's where he's happy. So I've talked with people in the last couple of weeks since Pierre broke that story and tried to do some digging, and I've been told by people I really trust that there is real interest by Mario and Ron Burkle and David Morehouse to put something together. They want to buy the Penguins again. The real question might be, well, two questions. Number one, can they put the money together to do it, whatever it would take? Because it's going to take a lot more than what they sold the team for.
Right.
And number two, does Fenway really want to sell? It's kind of like the Bob Nutting thing in Pittsburgh. Everyone wants Bob Nutting to sell the Pirates, but if Bob Nutting doesn't want to sell the Pirates, Bob Nutting's not going to sell the Pirates. Fenway, now Fenway has come out back in January, I think it was, and said they were looking for a minority investor. And a lot of people think that's because the Penguins have lost a ton of money the last couple of years, and they want somebody to come in to kind of help out with that. So it's still a good investment for them. And I've had people tell me, yeah, that means Fenway will sell if the price is right. And I've had other people say, nah, that doesn't mean Fenway wants to sell. So I don't know if Fenway wants to sell, but I've had enough people tell me, people I trust, that no, this is a real thing, that they really are interested. And I asked about Mario. I said, what's in it for him? Like, why? He's happy with his life. He's got his name on the cup 5 times. Like, I just never thought he wanted to come back. And the person told me, and I quote, Mario is bored. 3 words. Like, all right. Maybe Mario kind of misses being the owner a little bit, even though I don't think he ever wanted to be an owner that badly, but maybe he does. And maybe he wants to see them get good again. And maybe he thinks he can help. I don't know. But I know there is real interest, and it's a massive story. I don't need to tell you guys how big of a deal number 66 is in the city of Pittsburgh. So what a story it would be if they somehow found a way to pull that off.
No, I think this is a hard question, but yes, while Mario we think would be amazing for the team, I mean, he is the one. Like, do you think he'll hurt the rebuild? Like, I mean, he is the one who signed Hextall, as the GM. I mean, Hextall was terrible, in my opinion. So, like, do you think that, is it a positive, or is it a negative? I mean, honestly, I just want to play devil's advocate here.
No, I see what you're saying. First of all, if this does happen, it's not going to be for a while. And I don't think this is something that's going to happen this summer or anything, if it does happen at all. No, I mean, I think Mario's a pretty smart business guy and a pretty smart hockey guy. I think he understands where the Penguins are. And I don't know. I haven't talked with him about it. I don't think he would necessarily alter what they're doing right now. But I also know that Mario knows what it's like to be at the end of your career on a bad team. His last few years were not on good teams at all. And I know how he feels about Sid. And I'm sure he would like Sid to, find himself on a winner soon. But, I think Mario understands, too, that you can't necessarily rush stuff like that, too. I don't know what Mario and Ron Burkle and David Morehouse, I don't know what they think about Kyle Dubas. I have no idea. So it's really hard to say, but Mario's synonymous with winning in Pittsburgh. We know that, and we know he wouldn't be coming back to, see the Penguins look like the Sabres or the Red Wings the last 10 years. That's for sure.
Okay.
And that was kind of my point. So I
have a question, and I don't know if you can answer this one, but Elliot Friedman made a post like a couple years ago, like 2 years ago, that Sidney Crosby has a burner social media account. Can you confirm or deny that?
A burner?
Yeah.
He told me that he may. Now he told me this is probably 10 years ago. He said that he used to have one. But that I've told this story on Twitter before that my friend and colleague Rob Rossi pissed him off so many times that he decided to delete it. So, so that's where that burner went away. Does that mean he might have one again? It'd be hard not to. Like, I don't know, if I were Sidney Crosby, oh my God, I'd want to know what everybody was saying about me. I know he's not like a big social media guy. Some are, some aren't. But I wouldn't. I can't speak for him on that one. I don't know. But I wouldn't be shocked. And I would, if he does have a burner, I would love to know what the name is.
Yeah.
Like I'd pay good money to know what the name of that burner was. That would be hilarious.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know if you're don't laugh at me, please, everybody. I don't know if you're a Vanderpump Rules guy. If you watch Vanderpump Rules, but when they found out Jax's burner account on that and his name, it was pretty funny. So I don't know if you
didn't strike me as a Vanderpump guy, Ken.
What's that?
You didn't strike me as a Vanderpump Rules guy. I'm impressed.
Hey, everyone has their side that you don't want anyone else to know, and I just announced it to the world, right?
You did.
You're not a Vanderpump guy.
I've seen it. It's fine. And my ex-wife liked it, so I tend to avoid it, but it's fine.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
I know you spoke about. Yeah, my bad. You're good.
Danny, I was going to tee you up. I know you had a question about the new rule changes.
So I know we spoke about this in the chat like a couple weeks ago about how the net guards and everything. I mean, how do veteran players what do they think about the net guards? And at least I know they're grandfathered in, but what's if they weren't? Would they be upset? Like, what is the overall mood?
When that happened a couple of years ago, the terrible tragedy. I remember Jeff Carter started wearing one immediately. I think his wife wanted him to wear it, and he just did it. And no questions asked. That's the way it was. Some guys just really hate it, and they aren't comfortable. I know the captain of the hockey team is one that doesn't like wearing them. He is in, for everyone who knows anything about Sid, he's a creature of habit and likes things a certain way, and he doesn't like how it feels against his neck. And that's, the way it is. I've had veteran guys tell me, and I know they didn't mean it to be disrespectful to Adam Johnson or anything that happened, but they've told me that, the terrible tragedy that happened overseas, in their opinion, the odds of something like that happening in the NHL are next to nothing because guys are better skaters and better players and more in control of their bodies. I hear I can imagine like a lot of skepticism, people hearing that, hey, you're still taking a risk, right? Like, I'd wear one if I played. I know that. I've had a lot of guys tell me like it probably wouldn't happen in the NHL and they're not comfortable doing it. But other guys, the younger guys, like, well, I don't care, we'll wear it. Like, we're used to wearing it anyway. So people will adjust. I'm 45 years old. I'm old enough to remember like when visors had to become a thing, and I still remember like Craig McTavish playing without a helmet on in the early 90s. Like, it was insane. And people complaining about it then. It's his right to wear a helmet or not. Like, oh God, like it's okay. Like, you'll get used to it. So like every other thing like that, they will get used to it. I don't blame the NHL for making guys wear them. I think it's probably a pretty intelligent thing to do, but there's always going to be some guys who aren't happy.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask this question, Josh. Now, obviously, it depends on how the season goes this season for the Penguins, whether they, they do well or they hit rock bottom, like everyone could expect them to. If there's a possibility, if they somehow land a top 3 pick or they even land Gavin McKenna, do we see them, because they'll have about 50 plus million in cap space next season with expiring contracts. If they were able to land, a franchise altering player like McKenna or like someone within the top 3, do you see them being aggressive next year and like spend to the cap, or do you see them maybe, conserve a bit? Obviously there's fluctuation with, still some looming players that could be moved and that could even add more. You could get up to 60 with, some cap space or some retention. Do we see that at all? Could we see them get aggressive?
Yeah, I think we probably will. I've been saying all along that I think the summer of 26 is when they get aggressive, whether they get Gavin McKenna or not. They're going to have so much money to spend; it's hard not to. And they're going to have so many bad contracts coming off the books next summer. Why wouldn't they spend some money? They don't want to be rebuilding forever. Now, if they get McKenna, and we all know that's what they want, why wouldn't they? That's what everybody wants. Now, if you get him, that changes things immediately. And not only do you start spending money at that time, but also I suspect other bigger name players in the league might want to come to Pittsburgh at that time because they're going to understand, okay, Gavin McKenna's there. If he's as good as we think he is, Pittsburgh's going to be a contender pretty soon. So that changes everything if you get him. But even if they don't, yeah, I think that's when they get aggressive because Dubas got aggressive in the summer of 23 and it burned him, but 24 and 25, not at all. And all the money's coming off the books now. And he doesn't want this to be some 5-year rebuild. I'm telling you, he doesn't. And they have all the draft picks in place now. They have some legitimate prospects in place now. And they're probably going to stink this year and get a top 5 pick this year with all those other draft picks they have. I think the summer of 26, yeah. Now that doesn't mean you're going to go out and get Connor McDavid for $20 million a year or whatever. I'm not suggesting that. But could they maybe? I'm just purely speculating. Actually, find a couple of good NHL defensemen, like $5-6 million a year guys, and sign them. Yeah, because guess what? They're going to need it, and we all know that. They do have some guys in the pipeline with Brunik and Pianiemi coming, but yeah, they clearly are going to need to spend some money. And I think next summer, I've always thought next summer is the time when that really will begin.
And I think there's some really good free agents that are going to be available next summer too. Like you said, possibly McDavid, he's expiring. So like Artemi Panarin as well. There's a couple players. I mean, do you think maybe we, instead of waiting until free agency, do you think we maybe trade and sign like that kind of thing now? Because now it's going to be, you'll be able to extend for 7 seasons and you can only sign free agents for 6. So you might. Well, I think that might become a more common thing where you're signing and extending, or you're trading and signing.
Could be. A lot of it depends on 2 different things. Like number one, have you traded Russ and Raquel by then? Like, say they're both gone. Then think about how much money you have to spend in the open market, and then you have to tie it back to Sid. And at that point, Sid only has 1 year left on his deal. And you're going to have to determine if you're Kyle Dubas. Is he retiring after this final contract? Is he still playing at the same level a year from now?
No.
If so, is he maybe going to want to play 2 or 3 more years after that contract? If that's all the case, if the answers to that are yes, then you have to have somebody for him to play with. And I like Villy and Rutger. They're good-looking players. I don't know that they're like a slam dunk to be 30-goal scorers on Sidney Crosby's wing either. You have to have somebody for him to play with if he's still operating at a really high level and if you want to get good. So a lot of it depends on Sid. Like if Sid, if his play goes downhill this season, I'm not suggesting it will, but it's going to happen one of these years. He's human, I think. Like if he has an off year, and starts to show his age a little bit, and now that could change things, of course. But when you have that much money to spend, which is what they're going to have next year, I'd be shocked if they don't spend it. And maybe Pittsburgh isn't like the destination team that it was 10 or 15 years ago when the big guys were in their prime. But it's not Winnipeg either. Like there's still people that'll be happy to play in Pittsburgh and play with Sid. So I think next summer is where we start to really see some fireworks.
Now, just really quick, and I know, Josh, you have to get going here soon. I have 2 questions for you. One you can answer real quickly. That one is, what kind of return do you think we'll see for Raquel, and if we would move Raquel this offseason, and Carlson, and if you want to throw in Rust, I think that one's going to be huge or massive, as what Kyle Dubas mentioned if we move him, but. And if you want to go into your annual NHL travel guide, if you want to talk about that a little bit, that's coming out soon. We would love to hear more about that.
Well, I'll start with the trades first. I can tell you Rust is the guy that he gets the most calls about. everybody wants him, and you know, what would the return be for Rust or Raquel? It's a great question. Normally, I would say, well, first round pick for sure. The only reason I hesitate with that is because nobody wants to give up their first round picks in 2026 right now. And that's fine. I don't know that the Penguins would require it, but it's probably going to take your best prospect, something like that. Either your number one pick, your best prospect, or a really good prospect and a good young NHL player, something along those lines. I mean, people get a little after some people say, oh, Russ, you got to get a first round pick and a great prospect and a great young player. Like, well, okay, he's not like Robert Richard. Hold on, you know, but yes, you can get legitimate return for him and Raquel, no question. And they both have really reasonable contracts, which only helps in that regard. So I think either a first round pick or a really, really good prospect, like a can't miss type. That has to be the foundation of any trade involving those two. The Carlson one's fascinating to me. I think there are teams interested in him, and I know for a fact the Penguins are willing to retain salary. They'll retain $2 or $3 million. You want Erik Karlsson for $7 a year? There you go. But because they're willing to retain with him, I think they want something back. Now, you're not getting a first round pick at this stage for Erik Karlsson. You're not getting a great prospect, but if they can get something of value. I think we could certainly see him traded this summer. So it's hard for me to get a feel for exactly what they want in return. But I can tell you, I've been told by so many people, like Kyle's phone literally rings every day, people wanting Brian Rust. And why wouldn't they? Like if you're a contending team, if you're even a young team like a Buffalo or a Detroit trying to, make the jump into the playoffs, why wouldn't you want him on your team? Of course you would. So it's a matter of what the Penguins asking price ultimately is. As for my travel guide, for those who don't know, I write an article every year for Pittsburghers, Penguins fans, whatever, who like to go on the road and travel with the Penguins. My recommendations of the best places, whether it be Vegas or Montreal or Vancouver, and the worst places like Newark or St. Louis or Edmonton, and everywhere else in between. Danny lives in Long Island. I'll lay off on the Islanders trip. It's not one of my favorites either, but
wow. Long Island is awesome.
Well, you're gonna have to show me around then.
There's some really good spots in Long Island.
I believe you. It's not as bad. That's okay. It's fine. I like to save Newark and Philly for my special.
Oh, Newark is terrible. I've been to Newark and then I got back to Penn Station and I felt safe. I felt comfortable.
That's right.
It was crazy.
Yeah. First time I ever covered a game in Newark. It was oh god, it was like 2010, I think. And Dave Molinari, who's covered the Penguins forever, we were walking out of the arena together, and the media parking lot, thankfully, is right across the street. And I'm just talking with Dave, and all of a sudden he starts sprinting to his car. I'm like, what the hell, Dave? So I started sprinting. I'm like, okay, is something wrong? And I get to my car. I'm like, Dave, why were you running? He's like, we're in Newark. That's why I was running. Drives away. Wow, that taught me. So to this day, I always sprint to my car in Newark. Can't stand it. But yeah, honestly, of all the road trips, there's 31 trips or whatever. Most of them are really cool. I don't ever take my job for granted. I get to fly around North America writing about hockey. It's not a bad life, and there are so many amazing cities. I'm in Toronto right now, which is a great town, and Montreal is probably my favorite. So I like to give people little, hotel tips or flight tips, whatever. I've been around these cities so many times now, I kind of know my way around. So always one of my favorite things to write. I was actually going to write it this week because I knew the schedule was coming out on Wednesday, but I got a little busy with the Mario story and my travel. So it's going to come out next week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. So I hope everybody enjoys that.
Well, any special edition or any international special edition?
Well, because I did spend a week in Stockholm back in May, I am indeed going to include the Stockholm trip. And it's a long flight, but other than that, it is really worthwhile. The Swedish people all speak English, which makes it much more comfortable. I had actually never been to Europe. It was my first time in Europe, so I didn't really know what to expect. And it's like, oh, everybody speaks English. This is great. It's
right. I've spent time in Holland and UK, and the living over there and the style of living, I should say, is so much different than ours, in such a beneficial way. And one day I'm going to retire and sneak away and live in a European country. I'm such a fan of it.
Ken, I will tell you, Stockholm, for those, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are going to make that trip, Penguins fans. It is the cleanest city I've ever experienced. There is not one piece of garbage or litter on the ground. The air smells cleaner. The water tastes fresher. Like it is a different world there. You will enjoy it, I promise.
And I know you and I have talked about it, and I think after talking with you more about it, it's become something to put on my bucket list for sure. But any other questions, guys? I know Josh has to get going here, and
following up to your travel plan, Josh, I know you're in Toronto right now. I'm based here in the nation's capital, here in Ottawa. They're coming here twice. I'll say, would you, when it comes to the Battle of Ontario, would you say what's better, Toronto or Ottawa? When it comes to a travel plan, would you recommend more?
You know what? I have mixed feelings on the Ottawa trip. For one, my children live in Kingston, Ontario, so I like the Ottawa trip because I'm less than 2 hours from my kids, so that makes it easy to see them. So I'm always going to pick the Ottawa trip. I wish the Senators played in downtown Ottawa because downtown Ottawa is a great city. It is an awesome town. If you're into like architecture or whatever, it's a really great place. One of my favorite cities. I can't say the same for Canada, however, which is where the Senators play, which is like a 20 or 30-minute drive south of Ottawa, and it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's like an IKEA there. That's about it, right?
Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I agree with you. There's a Tanger Outlets, and really, it's almost like Florida in a sense. It's like in the middle of nowhere. It's kind of just this remote place. I know, obviously, they have agreed to Lebeton Flats is in the downtown part of Ottawa. They have a plan to build an arena there, so I think your wish is coming true. I'll say, hopefully, you'll get to see that.
Listen, Toronto's Toronto. Like if you're a hockey fan, you got to come here for a game if you can afford it. It's not cheap, but to see the Hockey Hall of Fame and just to enjoy all of what Toronto has to offer, and for Pittsburghers, it's a 5-hour drive. It's a really easy drive to Toronto. So I always recommend that trip, even though the traffic's a nightmare. But Ottawa, it's not really a great trip just because it's a logistical nightmare. But if indeed they get the new building, and I don't really like their building either. But if they get a new building in downtown Ottawa, that's a game changer. I'm telling you, Ottawa's actually a really great city. I like it quite a bit.
Okay. One
more thing about Long Island, because it seems you hate it on us here, but UBS Arena is pretty cool. It's much bigger than the Coliseum, and they just added a bunch of stuff over there. So they added like a bunch of like stores and restaurants next door, and then you're gonna have the racing there all year long, and they're having the All-Star game. They got really lucky. The Islanders kind of.
It's right at the Belmont track. No, it's actually a beautiful building.
But Elmont's not a great town. I mean, like over there, yeah. But like I don't know where you stay, but I know I think the players stay in the Garden City Hotel over there in Garden City. Right. Garden City's beautiful. I mean, that's a nice area. But besides that, I mean, Long Island, they have the beaches, everything. Long Island's nice.
All right, Danny's selling me on Long Island. I like it.
Yeah, I think there's a couple good spots. So.
All right, I'm going to give it a shot. No, I mean, it is a great building. It is a great arena. I love it.
They got really lucky, though.
They did it right.
They got everything now. The Olympic send-off, All-Star game, and they got the first.
That's true, and it's not Newark, that's for sure. Which is also the most sterile building in the league, and the worst neighborhood in the league. Everything about Newark is just unbelievable.
That train station is brutal. Scary, really scary.
Yeah. Well, I remember my dad told me a story. He used to actually be a Devils fan before I brought him over to being a Penguins fan. And I remember he went to Newark a couple times, and I remember him telling the stories of how freaked out he was at night after leaving in the arena, and how fast he jetted to the train to get out of New Jersey and into a safe space. So I kind of agree with you on that. I'll say I've heard a lot of stories when it comes to that. So I don't know how bad it is. I've never experienced it myself, but I've heard it's pretty bad.
Yeah, we have a few road trip. St. Louis is not in a very nice part of St. Louis as well.
I was just about to say St. Louis train station it's
frightening. Chicago is one of my favorite cities, but I don't like where the Blackhawks play particularly. Not in a good part of Chicago. Yeah, there's a few spots. Philadelphia, you can always get your ass kicked just because they might affiliate you with the Penguins in any way, and you have to be aware. Even though it's actually in a nice part of Philly where they play. But yeah, there's a few spots. You know where it's actually gotten nice though? Like always had the bad reputation. Detroit has actually gotten a lot better.
Good.
And
Yeah.
their arena, it's my favorite building in the league. Little Caesars Arena is spectacular. It's in a really nice part of Detroit. Joe Louis Arena used to be in a rough neck of the woods for sure. But now Little Caesars, it's a game changer. Gorgeous building.
Well,
for
thank you,
anyone that
Josh,
comes-
for coming on. Oh, my
Thank
bad.
you.
No, I was going to say for anyone that comes to Pittsburgh, just if you're from out of town and you're on Fifth Avenue, just it's fine. Like you'll be fine. Just walk to the stadium. You'll be
That's right.
fine. Anyone who thinks that's a terrible area or scared to walk down Fifth, you'll be fine. You'll be perfectly fine.
That's what I've heard, honestly. I know there's a hotel right next door, but like I heard, like the inner city's not the best.
Yeah. Well, I went during the bunting run right before the bunting run came in 23, and he kind of helped almost get them into the playoffs. That was my first time attending. I stayed to the hotel next to the arena. I had nothing great things to say about Pittsburgh, but I will say at night I thought it was a bit shady. And there's a couple of alleyways where I was like, I was kind of scared to go down just because there was a couple of shops I went shopping at. And my dad was kind of, he was on edge too. And,
You're from Canada. You're not used to how we roll on them.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think if I can last in New York City, I'll be fine in Pittsburgh, I think.
Yeah, Pittsburgh's not that bad. Every American city, I think every city, like after COVID, took a little bit of a hit. Like homelessness went up and the economy, but Pittsburgh's fine. You want
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah, I know. Besides that, I thought Pittsburgh was beautiful. I cannot wait to come back.
Good.
Unbelievable.
I heard Primanti Bros. Before you go, I know we're getting close, but I heard Primanti Bros is kind of overrated. I heard
What?
it's.
I didn't mind it.
It's named.
You know,
It's called Primanti. Let's start there.
Oh, Primanti. Okay, my bad.
not
Sorry, I don't
Primanti.
speak Yinzer. My bad. Sorry.
It's one of those places that you live here. I've probably eaten there 10 times, but if I'm going out to eat, I usually drive right by it.
Right.
It's not somewhere I put on my to go to.
I hear everyone says that though. Everyone, it's the best. You got to go there when you go to Pittsburgh.
It's like the Cheers bar in Boston. Like it's a tourist trap kind of. It gets fine.
Yeah.
If you want
Yeah,
French
good.
fries on your sandwich, it tastes good. I'm like you. I might eat there once a year. Just
Yeah.
Whatever. If somebody wants to go to Primanti's, it's not really like. I don't know that the locals go there all the time. It's definitely when people come from out of town, they have to eat there. It's fine.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. A little overhyped, probably. If you want to talk food, like Pittsburgh's a very underrated pizza city. We have really, really good pizza.
Hands down.
I don't know. I feel like I'm going to be a tough critic. I feel like
You will, because you're from New York. We get it, but it's what really is a good pizza town. It is.
Yeah.
We
I
have
like
a
to
lot of
honestly.
immigrants. They do it right.
Honestly, whenever I go, I travel. I have to try the pizza where we are. Like no matter where it is, just because it's like I just want to compare it to New York. That's how I feel.
I'll give a shout out to a local place. And Danny, might be a shout out to you, but it's called Slice of New York. And it's a little place. I live in Murraysville, so it's out this way. But I mean, absolutely incredible. Big pizzas, and I know they were. Dave Portnoy came out here and made a stop there too. For his one bite competition and gave it a pretty high score. So if you ever get a chance, Josh, Slice in New York.
All right. I know I've heard of it. I've heard very good things. I know we have a lot of legit places. We do.
Yeah. Well,
the New Yorker will be impressed. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yes, I can't wait. I'm excited. When I come, I got to try pizza for sure.
Well,
I just stay away from the south side after 11 o'clock on the weekend.
Oh God, yes.
That's it. That's the bad area for you. Okay.
No good.
That overlook with the mountain there, that looks beautiful. I think
it does. Yeah. I was fortunate when I was in Pittsburgh. I got a true Pittsburgh experience because during that run there, I was in a back-to-back against the Rangers in Detroit. And it just happened to so Kenny Pickett, the day I got to Pittsburgh, got traded to the Eagles. And then not a day later after the Rangers game where they lost 7-4, the Justin Fields that night get acquired to Pittsburgh. And I remember I was in Primanti's eating dinner after the game, and the place was absolutely buzzing. People were so excited. So I felt like I got the true Pittsburgh experience while I was there, without a shadow of a doubt. like I didn't think it would happen, and I knew the field rumors were there, but I was just so excited to just like get that taste of like what like the Inzers are feeling like on a day where that happens. It was so cool.
Yeah. But honestly, thank you, Josh, for coming on. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
means a lot to us. We
Anytime,
really
gentlemen.
appreciate it. I think we had a great time. But this
Thank
was
you.
awesome. So
Thank you so much, and
Yeah,
enjoy
my
your
pleasure.
time in Toronto, and stay safe
Yeah.
and your travel back.
I appreciate it, guys.